This is a story people have been talking about all week long. 4 kids under 15 years old are in custody after an online threat was
Mm.
made to several South Jersey schools. According to Woodbury Police Department, the juvenile who made the original threat on Sunday evening is a student from Woodbury. Police say the threat may have been a cry for help from the 12-year-old. 3 other students from Washington Township, Harrison, and Glassboro allegedly made the similar threats.
With school coming back in full swing, things can get a little stressful. Joining us now is Dr. Tara Chalakani, CEO of Preferred Behavioral Health Group and co-host of the Well Off podcast, to give us all the best tips to keep our kids and ourselves anxiety free. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back.
So, with all of the recent school shootings in Georgia and the threats that were just made in South Jersey schools, and we're all coming back for the beginning, it's definitely adding to what is normally just a little bit of a stressful and chaotic times. So, how do we talk to our kids about these events, especially when they're the ones who are entering the school buildings every single morning?
Yes, Dina, our school year in New Jersey has certainly gone off to a very unusual
Mm.
start with shootings in Georgia, threats of shootings in Ohio, and now in our own home state. Several schools were closed last week in South Jersey. And as a provider to over 30 school
Mm.
districts, we here at Preferred Behavioral Health Group have been privy to so many disturbing stories about threats and really heightened anxieties in both parents and children.
So that brings up a point about now that school is back in session, Dr. Chalakani. You have kids and parents may have a hard time adjusting to what's been going on. What are some tips to make this transition easier?
Well, I know it sounds counterintuitive as we are here on the New Jersey Morning Show, but really limiting exposure to the news is essential. And I know that children hear things at school, and that's really unavoidable, but preventing them from these horrific news stories is really key, and really being age appropriate. If a small child is asking questions, we want to give just one sentence answers. But the real key here is that first you want to ask your child how they're feeling and what their thoughts are about it. Because what I find is that parents tend to overthink or have a tendency to want to over explain, which gives children sometimes more information than they need or even want. So I would just start with asking, what do you know? What are you thinking about this? How are you feeling? And use that as your compass to guide you through the conversation with your children. It's really important to listen, to validate, not to minimize their fears or their stress, and really do your work as a parent. Call the school, find out what their safety plan is so you can provide your children with facts to help them feel more secure during the school day.
That's really helpful. I really love the idea of validating their concerns, not minimizing them, and asking them first what information they know and using that as a guide rather than just downloading them with everything that's going on. I think it's part of our responsibility as a parent, me being a parent myself, is to try to be that boundary and that barometer for
Sure.
them.
And sometimes we assume we know how they're feeling or
Mhm.
what they're thinking when
Yeah.
we really don't. And the sad thing is that these mass school shootings have increased over 8% since 2020, and every hour in the United, or every day rather, 12 children die by gun violence,
Mm.
and those statistics are staggering. But in the grand scheme of things, it is rare. So we want to stress that too. And we want to provide our children with facts, whether that this happened very far away or, it was someone that was really struggling and we don't know anybody like that personally. Whatever they feel is a fact-based explanation that would give them a little bit more comfort.
I agree. And Dr. Chalakani, I know that parents are concerned speaking to their kids, and we've talked a little bit about that, but are there any other concerns beyond that parents have been bringing to you during this time of year? And, how do you recommend addressing those?
Sure. Well, the beginning of the school year tends to be a little anxious regardless because we're shifting schedules, we have new teachers, new classes, sometimes new schools, and it's stressful for parents too with new routines. They might have children now in different schools. So there's a whole variety of reasons why parents and children will feel stressed. But this really compounds it because it's just something really additional because now our basic need for safety is being infringed upon when we're worried about a threat being made to our school. But again, it's listening, validating, and really paying attention. Is your child not acting like themselves? Are they not being as social? Or do they not seem as happy? And really, it's important to get help when they need it. I always say if your child wakes up with a tummy ache, you're going to ask questions, maybe keep them home, maybe bring them to the pediatrician. So if they're not feeling well mentally or emotionally, we have to give them the same type of care.
Sure, like you mentioned, starting a new school year can be exciting for some, but others have a little more difficulty coping. What should advice or what do you give to a parent who, has a child that is really having an extremely difficult time and just refuses to adapt to the new routine?
Well, I mean, patience is a virtue, right? So we have to give children the time and space to adjust and adapt. And again, just like with talking about these difficult topics, ask them what they need. What would help them to feel better and if it's within reason, of course, adjustments should be made, but I think very often we don't give children credit for knowing themselves and we need to first ask them, what they feel would help them because again, I think that takes a lot of the guesswork out of parenting, and parents are thinking with an adult brain and we tend to assume or overthink things. So asking our child what they might need, it could be something very simple that can be implemented to reduce everyone's stress level.
Yes, and once we identify that our child has a need such as that, is there a way parents can help children unwind during these stressful times, whether it's after school or before school, maybe some like hands-on tactile ways to help them work through it?
Sure. Routines are very important. Structure really helps children have a sense of security, knowing what's next. And downtime is really important. I think, we're all bound to schedules and it can feel like a race, like, okay, come on, hurry up. You have to do your homework because now we have to go to practice. And I think it's important to take a breath, take some time, pay attention to maybe what can be removed from a schedule to give kids a little breathing time. They need time to unwind. I mean, outside play is down 40% than the previous generation, but it's important for them to come home, maybe get some fresh air, move their bodies before they get right back to homework and activities and, being on a frenetic clock, which little guys don't need to be.
Yeah, kids need to be kids. Dr.
They do.
Chalakani, where can folks learn more about you and your practice?
Well, our website is preferredbehavioral.org, and it's a robust hub for all things mental health, blogs, services, and we're here to help the state of New Jersey.
Dr. Tara Chalakani, CEO of Preferred Behavioral Health Group, thank you so much for joining us. Always great to have you back on the show.
My pleasure.